Couple things. The Middle East and still the cauldron, the burning cauldron of trouble out there. President Obama declared today the United States will do what it must to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, as UN Secretary General Kai Moon warned against threatening attacks whose consequences would be devastating. Taking the podium at the United Nations 6 weeks before the U.S. presidential election, Obama sought to counter criticism of his foreign policy record by Republican rival Mitt Romney, who accused him of mishandling the Arab Spring uprisings, damaging ties with Israel, and not being tough enough on Iran. Obama also challenged world leaders to stand united against anti-American violence that has swept many Muslim countries in recent weeks, and to promote tolerance amid anger over a crudely made video that offended Islam. Seeking to step up pressure on Iran, the president told the UN General Assembly there's still time for diplomacy, but time is not unlimited. So you've got to wonder what Romney in there, would he just use the nuke and go in and be Mr. Tough Guy? And you really got to be careful. You could start a real chain of problems from nuke to nuke out there, and pretty soon we're looking at a world like, if you ever seen the movie The Road by Cormac McCarthy, we may be on the way to the road sooner than we think if these things happen. So it's very, very, very serious, and you can't let a country make comments against another country. Like, the Iran is still saying that Israel is an inferior country. On Monday, the Iranian president Ahmadinejad even said Israel has no roots in the Middle East and would be eliminated. So this is just terribly barbaric talk, and not civilized, not conducive to any kind of civilized world. So these forces must be stopped, and you just hope that there aren't any nuclear programs right now that we don't know about in Iran. So we need to be thinking about this. This is something that's the fate of the world. So Mitt Romney as president, would he like John Wayne, come in there and pull the trigger and say, hey, we're going to get rid of these guys and make everything? It's not that simple. Romney also said this morning, he outlined plans to transform the foreign aid system that would link financial assistance from the U.S. to trade and development policies of the countries that need help. Romney said the program, which he labeled a Prosperity Pact, would use input from the private sector to identify barriers to investment, trade, entrepreneurism in developing nations. Too often our passion for charity is tempered by our sense that our aid is not always effective. Romney said, we see stories of cases where American aid has been diverted to corrupt governments. We wonder why years of aid and reliefs never seem to extinguish the hardship, why the suffering persists decade after decade. So Romney is getting rid of some foreign aid too, pulling back. Perhaps more of a isolationist policy. Pat Buchanan might back something like that. The United States is currently the world's largest donor, contributing $53 billion in foreign assistance in fiscal 2010, according to the United States Agency for International Development. Of that, $38 billion was in economic assistance, $15 billion in military assistance. About 9% of the funding went to countries in the Middle East. Romney said, I am often asked why and what we can do to lead the Middle East to stability, to ease the suffering, anger, and the hate. Romney said religious extremism is certainly part of the problem, but it's not the whole story. It's a lot of the problem. It's most of it, I think, unfortunately. So anyway, it's interesting. I think I'm afraid that Romney would take too hard of a stance on this thing and blow us all up, frankly. Speaking of blowing up, a terrible segue there, but the Green Bay Packers certainly had a game blow up on them last night in a referee call more suited to a professional wrestling mat, which is a contrived victory almost. The Packers lost to the Seahawks, but they shouldn't have. The quarterback, Russell Wilson, threw a ball in the end zone. It was intercepted, and then the Seattle guy stole the ball away. And there are clear rules stating that if it's an interception, they hold it, they have it in the grasp, they hold the ball for a while, and then it's taken away afterwards. That's not a touchdown. Now they're blaming it on the NFL is using replacement referees. So, I think once they made this call, they couldn't reverse it. I think the fans were going wild. Touchdown Seattle, they win the game. Fourth down play, dramatic. Everybody's running up and down the field. And, the refs I would assume they're smart enough to know they made the wrong call after looking at it, but then they probably said, well, we don't want to riot in the stadium. So they probably said, okay, let's just keep it the way it is. And all the talk shows are talking about it. Even ESPN had like 30 minutes straight about it today, showing the play over and over and over again. So some of the anger has shifted to getting regular refs in there. They tried to interview this Tate guy, that caught the pass, or that allegedly caught the pass and stole it away from the Packer. And he said, the interviewer said, well, what are your thoughts? Do you think you really caught the ball? He said, I don't want to talk about that. Kind of like a teenager faced with a lie. I think, see you later. I don't want to talk about it. Bye-bye now. So, yeah, clearly terrible, So, anyway, it should be, professional sports should show fairness, and if the refs are bullied by the home crowd, or, the refs should not be bullied by anything, and the refs basically let themselves be bullied by the enthusiasm, really. You better not overcall this kind of thing. So, okay, there's my opinion. A little bit of news, a little bit of sports. Looking forward to the presidential debates coming up soon with Romney and Obama, and of course they'll be real scripted and predictable maybe, but who knows, maybe Romney will make a gaffe or something, or we'll see how articulate the two are. They both are fairly articulate. MSNBC was talking yesterday about how Romney needed to have cards in front of him, and kind of like Sarah Palin. I don't think he's brighter than that, but that apparently he's been practicing furiously to try to get ready for this debate. I definitely think Obama is much more articulate, and so hope he pins Romney down in answering the questions about like Medicare, foreign policy. Would you agree? It's a good question to ask him. Would you agree with the Bush doctrine? Do you agree with the Bush doctrine? First strike on Iran. If he has enough intelligence, would he do a first nuke strike on Iran? Stuff like that. These things need to be talked about. So there you go. It should be interesting. Always interesting. Football's interesting. Politics is interesting. Life is interesting. And I'm going to go on a bike ride now because it's a beautiful day outside. So hope you're having a fantastic day.